Hi, Alan Schimmel, DevOps.com here at DevOps Enterprise Summit, London 2016. And I'm here with Steve Brodie, CEO of ElectricCloud. Steve, welcome. Welcome back.
Oh, thank you. Good to be here again, Alan.
Yes. And Steve, you just came off the main floor,
Yep.
the main discussion floor speaker, and you spoke on the yin and yang of DevOps.
Right.
And that's a great topic. Why don't you give our audience a little bit of background on what you meant by that?
Sure. I mean, when you kind of think of DevOps, I mean, traditionally you have Dev and Ops. It's seen as sort of opposing forces that are really working against each other, have different goals. But the reality is that although they're seemingly opposing, they're really complementary, and for the overall system to work in harmony, they have to work together. So I think the yin and yang symbol is very representative of that. So you have, one of the sides being Dev and the other side being Ops there. And so that's sort of the fundamental thing. But I think if you look a little bit deeper, there's a lot of other fundamental dualities that you see. I think if you look at DevOps, a lot of the things you talk about is that there's culture and people that you have to address first, and then there's tools and technology and process. And you have to address both of them to be very effective at DevOps.
You're 100% correct. But let's continue along this duality theme. If you're right, the obvious duality is Dev and Ops.
Yeah.
Maybe different sides of the same coin.
Yep.
But there's more duality when we talk about the DevOps way, if you will.
Absolutely.
And and some of it is the old and the new, the bimodal,
That's right.
The systems of record, systems of engagement kind of stuff
Absolutely.
that you might hear about. And, there's so much of that duality in DevOps that we see that, Steve, when you told me you spoke about that, it just my mind exploded.
Yeah, it works really well. I mean, again, we work with a lot of large enterprises, and, we're working with a large enterprise now as a standard for doing DevOps deployment for 6,000 applications built with 50,000 components running across 150,000 servers. And so in that type of environment, you're going to have some traditional, more legacy, monolithic apps, but a lot of the new things that are being developed with microservices, container-based approaches. Mm-hmm. And you need a solution that can be kind of flexible to support that. So the bimodal IT notion, the multimodal IT notion really works in that environment.
Sure. And it's, we always talk about the DevOps and culture.
Yeah.
That duality extends to the culture too. We had a few videos here today with some of the speakers who were talking about sort of the autonomous nature of DevOps teams. Another one talking about no managers,
right? Sort
of a no ops and these kinds of things. And it really is Steve, you and I have been around the block a few times. This is a very different IT than we first started with, right?
Entirely.
Almost it's heresy to think of some of the things that they're saying out loud.
Yeah.
That we're seeing.
Yeah. No, it's very interesting. And again, you do see much more, cross-functional teams. You see much more in terms of, squads kind of coming together. And again, I think it kind of comes back to all those pieces working in harmony. And so, the yin and yang symbol, kind of generally, has two components to it. But if you look at some of the older versions of the yin and yang symbol, it actually has a number of different elements coming together.
Yeah.
And if you think of, kind of creating this cross-functional squad where you've got development, you've got testing, you've got operational concerns, deployment concerns, it does have to work in harmony. And I think traditionally with the silo-based approach, the waterfall-based approach, it just hasn't worked very well. And you've gotten these silo optimizations as opposed to sort of a holistic system level optimization.
Yeah.
And so, it's very interesting. I mean, I think the other one too is the duality of applications and infrastructure. And again, that's been something that hasn't really worked together very well historically. And those things have to work in harmony. And I think at the infrastructure level, one of the great enablers has been software-defined infrastructure. In the past, how IT used to be is you'd provision a new server and you might get it in 40 days. Mm-hmm. Then it has to be configured. You can't be very dynamic. You can't really implement DevOps without it. So, software-defined infrastructure, model-based declarative configuration management is a phenomenal enabler. It doesn't address a lot of the application, concerns as well. And so that has to work. And you'd have to have something that can really orchestrate that application delivery process in concert with the infrastructure. But that has to blend, and traditionally it hasn't been like that. There's been people working on the applications, there's been people working on the infrastructure. And so I think this notion of everything, kind of coming together and working in harmony, working in balance is...
Well, I think harmony is it too, because there have been people working on infrastructure, people working on the application. And that in and of itself may not necessarily be a bad thing, but they were working at opposite ends. They had different goals. They had different...
No shared objectives.
Right. And that really...
Yeah.
Obviously that's part of the allure of DevOps. But Steve, ElectricCloud's a company that's familiar with DevOps, obviously.
Oh, absolutely.
You guys are, I guess, one of the co-founders, founding sponsors of the DevOps Enterprise Summit.
Yeah.
I think you are, again, the primary or whatever
we're the founding
highest
sponsor,
for San Francisco as
That's
well,
correct.
coming up in November this year.
That is correct, yes.
And here presenting and one of the main sponsors at this show. Why the DevOps Enterprise Summit? Why the big commitment to that?
Yeah, Gene Kim and I, several years back, Gene was speaking at our user conference, and we had a user conference that just had our customers in there. We were talking about our solutions, and we had some very large enterprises that were talking about how they were leveraging ElectricCloud to do enterprise DevOps at scale. And Gene and I started talking, and he goes, hey, I have this idea that I've been thinking about, that there really should be a conference for horses, as he likes to call them, doing DevOps at scale. And so we agreed to get together and do this. And we felt it was very important. I mean, if you look at, how DevOps got started, it was things like DevOps days and practitioners kind of getting together and sharing ideas and thoughts. But there was really no venue for larger enterprises to do that. And there are some unique challenges that larger enterprises have. And so we said, why not put it together? And it's been a great success because, originally the first year we were targeting 500 people, we had 600.
Wow.
Last year we were targeting 1,000 and we had 1,100. We've hit fire code capacity the first year.
Right.
Last year, 500 enterprises, have come. So we're really at the tipping point. And I think the reality is that enterprises recognize that if they can't innovate, if they can't deliver innovation faster, software-driven innovation faster, they're at huge risk of getting disrupted.
Yeah.
I think we've heard this Target, at DevOps Enterprise in the U.S. said they're a technology company. I think at the Barclays talk earlier today, he was saying that Jamie Dimon says we run the risk of getting disrupted by some Silicon Valley company. And you're seeing a lot of these new entrants coming into the market.
Yep.
So you've got to be able to innovate. You've got to be able to move faster. And so we think by sharing ideas, by bringing the community together, these large enterprises can do it too.
Absolutely. And I'll add one thing if you don't mind.
No, absolutely.
Stephen, that one of the great things about the DevOps Enterprise Summit is your ElectricCloud.
Yeah.
And we have HP Enterprise here, and IBM, and Atomic, and Zibier, and numerous other ones.
Yeah.
There's no territorial kind of, I don't want to use a bad term, but there's no territorial matches, marking territory here.
Yeah.
We're all here to learn. We're all here to share our
Absolutely.
DevOps stories as well as these enterprises telling their stories. And I think that, again, that sense of community, right, where we're doing it for a common purpose, for the betterment of everyone.
Yeah.
It may sound corny, but yet it works at the DevOps Enterprise,
It's
doesn't
absolutely true. And again, like I said, we had a user conference that was just our customers. We said that's really important for it to be an industry event and kind of looking at how Agile kind of spun up. I mean, you want to bring the community together. I mean, the rising tide, raises all boats here. And I think really promoting the DevOps movement is really going to help everyone. And we wanted to bring all the people who are doing DevOps. So we want to make sure we get IBM's customers here, HP's customers here to really sort of broaden sort of the knowledge sharing. It's important to give back to the community. I think sharing is one of the key aspects. CAMs, culture, automation, measurement, and sharing. And sharing internally, but sharing with the community is crucial.
Absolutely, positively.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, thank you so much. I'm sure you had a great presentation here. Unfortunately, I was stuck doing
I understand.
But the good news is all of the presentations
are
are being videotaped, and they will be online, as well as I believe they were live streamed on the IT Revolution site. So people watching may have actually seen it. If not, you could go see it now. Steve, continued success to ElectricCloud.
Thank you very much.
And we hope to have you back on again soon, or maybe on DevOps.com.
Sounds good. That'd be great.
Doing some sort of webinar or podcast, and we'll talk.
We'd love to do it. Great. Thanks,
Pleasure.
Alan.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
This is Alan Schimmel for DevOps.com. Okay.